What if I told you that every chain binding your mind is nothing but an illusion, that no person, no failure, no betrayal has the power to truly break you? Today, we expose the ancient secret, how to live in such a way that nobody and nothing can ever control you, stop you, or bend your will. The problem we will solve is the oldest one in history: how to remain unconquerable in a world built on control. Strength is not what you imagine it to be. It is not muscle. It is not armies. It is not titles, wealth, or applause. Strength, in its purest form, is perception. It lives not in the brute force of reality, but in how reality is seen, interpreted, and believed. Consider this carefully. The world does not move according to facts. It moves according to belief. A man who appears unbreakable is often treated as if he truly is, and a man who shows even the faintest crack of surrender, even if he still has fight left in him, is seen as already defeated. The perception becomes the truth, and perception always travels faster than reality. Think of kings, emperors, or leaders throughout history. Many were not the strongest in body, nor the wisest in counsel, nor even the most deserving by birth, but they wore strength as if it were a cloak. They mastered the art of projecting certainty. They understood that if others believed they could not be broken, they became, in practice, unbreakable. Their enemies hesitated, their allies stood firm, and their subjects obeyed. The illusion created the reality. Now, understand how this applies to you. In your life, people are always watching, always calculating, always testing. They look for weakness. They look for the moment you flinch, the moment you doubt yourself, the moment you question your own worth. If they see hesitation, they sense opportunity. If they see despair, they will treat you as if you are already conquered. It does not matter if you still have strength left. The moment you appear broken, the battle is already lost in their eyes. Strength is therefore a theater, a performance. You must learn to walk with the bearing of one who cannot be shaken. You must train your face, your voice, your movements, so that they betray nothing of your inner storms. Let the world believe that you are calm even when you are burning inside. Let them believe you are certain even when you are still calculating. This is not deception, it is survival. Think of the lion. Even when injured, even when hungry, it does not crawl before jackals. It stands tall, its eyes are steady, its posture commands respect, and because of this the jackals scatter. They fear the idea of the lion more than the reality of its wounds. That is strength by perception. Ask yourself this: when others look at you, what do they see? Do they see a person easily swayed, easily provoked, easily discouraged? Or do they see someone who cannot be moved, someone whose spirit radiates an unspoken authority? The difference has nothing to do with what you truly feel inside. It has everything to do with the perception you choose to project. In this world, you must become an architect of appearances. Do not think this is shallow. It is not. It is strategic. Men have risen to power and ruled entire nations on perception alone. They appeared decisive even when they were guessing. They appeared merciless even when they were hesitant. They appeared eternal even when their time was limited, and the world treated them as if these appearances were fact. Strength, therefore, is a mask you must wear at all times. The mask must never slip. You may bleed, you may ache, you may tremble within, but outwardly you must be stone, because once others see the crack, they will not only exploit it, they will magnify it. They will spread it, whisper it, and soon your weakness becomes legend. The illusion of defeat is more deadly than defeat itself. Do not misunderstand me. This does not mean you deny reality. It does not mean you pretend problems do not exist. No, it means you control the stage upon which reality is displayed. It means you choose which truths the world is allowed to see. Keep your storms private. Keep your doubts hidden. Keep your fractures behind closed doors. To the world, you are unyielding. To the world, you are the one who does not break. The great strategist understands that men are guided more by what they believe than by what is. Appear powerful, and you will be treated as powerful. Appear unbreakable, and others will not even attempt to break you. Appear sovereign, and you will be left alone. Rule yourself. Perception is the shield that keeps enemies at bay and allies loyal. It is the first layer of armor in a hostile world. And so, I tell you this, strength is not a fact. It is a story, a narrative you must author with every word, every gesture, every breath. The world does not need to know your truth. It only needs to see the image you choose to project. That image becomes reality. That perception becomes power. That is the essence of strength. Control is not chains on your hands, nor bars on a prison. Control begins in the mind, and it lives in the surrender of your will. Whoever governs your thoughts governs your life, and yet most people do not see this. They imagine that they are free, even as they are ruled daily by the opinions of strangers, the expectations of family, the commands of society. They obey silently, without a whip cracking above them, because their will has already been subdued. Look closely at the rulers of the world. They do not waste their energy holding every man by the throat. No, they master the art of steering desire, of guiding fear, of planting invisible chains. A man who believes his thoughts are his own rarely notices that they were given to him by another. That is the highest form of control, when the captive does not even know he is a prisoner. But here lies the secret. Control only exists where you allow it. If your mind cannot be ruled, your body cannot be conquered. If your will is your own, then no one else can sit upon the throne of your life. Ask yourself, how many times have you bent your will, not because you were forced, but because you feared disapproval? How many times have you silenced your own voice, not because the law demanded it, but because you feared being alone? Every time you betray your own will to satisfy another, you hand over a fragment of your sovereignty. Piece by piece, you carve away your freedom and hand it to others. That is how men are ruled, not through chains of iron, but through the quiet surrender of will. To remain unconquered, you must learn this principle. The will is a battlefield. Every day, forces will try to enter it. Some will come openly, shouting commands. Others will come subtly, whispering in the disguise of love, advice, or approval. But the moment you obey against your true judgment, you have allowed another to seize command of your inner fortress. Understand, obedience is not always weakness. There are times when bending serves a greater strategy, when compliance hides your strength until the moment you strike. But there is a difference between calculated compliance and the surrender of will. The first is strategy, the second is defeat. The rulers of old knew this well. Machiavelli himself observed that men are easier to govern through fear than through love, for fear roots itself in the will. A man in fear makes choices that do not belong to him. He hands over his reason. He obeys reflexively. This is why tyrants seek to dominate not only the body but also the spirit. For the body may escape chains, but a mind bound by fear does not run. You must learn, then, to guard your will with the same ferocity that kings guard their crowns. When others seek to sway you, ask, do these words align with my reason, or are they an invasion of it? When fear rises, confront it directly and strip it of its disguise. For fear is nothing more than an attempt to place another's hand upon the wheel of your destiny. Think of soldiers in battle. Some fall not because their weapons failed, but because their will failed. They believed they were already defeated, and so they were. Meanwhile, others, outnumbered and outmatched, still carved their names into history because their will refused to bend. Battlefield always belongs to the one who commands his own spirit, and in your life the battlefield is everywhere. When you enter a room and feel the pull to conform, that is the battle. When someone's opinion makes you question your worth, that is the battle. When fear whispers that you should not take the risk, that is the battle. Every moment is a test of sovereignty. Win it, and you remain your own master. Lose it, and you become another's subject. The game of control is not played with swords, nor with gold, nor with armies. It is played with will, and will is invisible, untouchable, immovable. Unless you decide otherwise, the world can push against you, threaten you, tempt you, entice you, but none of this matters unless you give in. Your will is the last fortress. So long as it stands, you cannot be ruled, and so the truth becomes clear. The measure of a free man is not how many chains are upon his body, but whether his will is still his own. The rulers of the earth may control laws, armies, or wealth, but they cannot control the man who governs his own thoughts, for that man is untouchable, and no empire can subdue him. Men speak often of respect, as if it were the noblest prize, as if the approval of others were the only true measure of greatness. But here is the truth few will dare admit. Most who speak of respect are not respected at all. They are tolerated, they are liked, they are treated kindly as long as they serve the comfort of others. This is not respect, it is indulgence. Fear, on the other hand, is something altogether different. Fear has weight. Fear alters behavior. Fear forces recognition even when admiration is absent. The man who is feared shapes the actions of others, whether they love him or not. The man who is merely respected is often betrayed the moment respect collides with self-interest. Consider history, which rulers survived longer, those loved for their generosity or those feared for their power. The beloved prince is adored until he denies his subjects something they desire, then they turn against him. The feared prince is hated perhaps, but still obeyed, for disobedience brings consequence. Fear roots itself deeper in the heart than respect ever could. Do not misunderstand. Fear does not mean cruelty for its own sake. It means presence. It means the awareness in others that you cannot be ignored, that there is a cost to crossing you, that your boundaries are lined with thorns. Respect without consequence is fragile. Fear without cruelty is power. Now, think of your own life. How many times have you been disrespected not because you lacked value, but because others knew there was no price to pay for dismissing you? You asked for respect, but asking is weakness. You expected recognition, but expectations are ignored when others sense no danger in denying them. People respect convenience. They obey power. Fear must be understood as a tool of survival, not as a prison for others. When people know you cannot be bent, when they sense you will defend your dignity with unflinching resolve, that is when fear takes its place beside respect. They may not like you, but they will not mistake you. They may not love you, but they will calculate carefully before testing you, and in a world of constant competition, that calculation is everything. Respect is fragile because it depends on admiration, and admiration is fickle. Today they admire your success, tomorrow they envy it. Today they praise your courage, tomorrow they resent it. Respect changes with moods. Fear remains steady. It does not depend on affection. It does not depend on loyalty. It does not even depend on truth. It depends only on perception. That crossing you will bring a price higher than they are willing to pay. This is not to say abandon respect altogether. Respect can be useful. It can open doors, soften alliances, create temporary harmony, but it must never stand alone. Respect without fear is permission for betrayal. The wise understand this balance. Be respected if you can, be feared if you must, but never allow yourself to be neither. You must learn to carry yourself in such a way that others hesitate before underestimating you. Do not beg for approval. Do not explain yourself endlessly. Do not try to win affection from every soul you meet. Instead, cultivate silence, decisiveness, and certainty. Let others feel in your presence that you are not easily moved. That feeling plants fear more effectively than any threat spoken aloud. Imagine two men. One is beloved, praised for his kindness, known for his generosity. The other is guarded, steady, and firm in his boundaries. The first will be adored until the day comes when he cannot give what others want. Then he will be cast aside without hesitation. The second may never be adored, but even his enemies will step carefully around him. Who is truly stronger, who is safer from betrayal? Fear is not always loud. Often it is quiet. It lives in the pauses between your words, in the steadiness of your gaze, in the knowledge that you will not yield to pressure. Respect often speaks, but fear listens, waits, and lingers in the mind of those who would test you. And so, when faced with the choice of being loved or being feared, remember this: love fades, respect shifts, but fear endures. Fear protects what admiration cannot. Fear guards when loyalty falters. Fear ensures that, even when you are opposed, you are never dismissed. Most men curse their obstacles. They call them curses, misfortunes, unfair burdens placed upon their lives. They believe that barriers are proof the world is against them, and in this belief they reveal their weakness. For the obstacle is not the enemy, it is the instrument. The obstacle is the weapon that forges the strong and destroys the weak. Imagine a soldier trained only in times of peace. His sword is sharp, his armor polished, his stance rehearsed. Yet, when the clash of battle comes, he shatters. His training was never tested against resistance. His strength was a decoration, not a reality. Contrast him with the soldier who has marched through storms, who has fought when hungry, who has bled and risen again. His scars are not signs of failure. They are proof of a weapon sharpened against hardship. Which one would you trust to stand when the world collapses? Every obstacle placed before you is an arena. It asks a simple question: will you surrender or will you adapt? The weak see the wall and turn back. The strong see the wall and climb, break, or outwit it. The wall is the same. The difference lies in the will that confronts it. Understand this: the obstacle carries a gift, but it is wrapped in suffering. Most will never open it. They see only the pain, and so they flee. But those who unwrap it discover new power, resilience, patience, strategy, endurance. These are not found in comfort. They are forged only where resistance exists. Consider the greatest figures in history. Did they rise because their path was smooth? No, they rose because the path was blocked, and they refused to stop walking. Their enemies, their betrayals, their defeats, each was an obstacle, and yet they bent these obstacles into weapons. They learned from them, used them, and in doing so, grew into giants. Think of Julius Caesar, exiled, captured by pirates, scorned by the Senate. Each obstacle could have ended him. Instead, he turned each into a lesson in strategy, in resilience, in command. By the time he returned to Rome, his enemies still saw him as a nuisance. They did not realize the obstacles they gave him had become the very weapons he would use to conquer them. Now, ask yourself, how many times have you begged for life to be easier? How many times have you wished for fewer problems, fewer enemies, fewer burdens? And yet, if life gave you such a gift, you would be weaker for it. Comfort does not prepare you. Ease does not sharpen you. You would be like the soldier who only trains in peace, ready to collapse at the first blow of reality. It is the obstacle that builds the kind of strength you cannot fake. The kind of strength no applause can give, no inheritance can buy, no education can simulate. It is earned in the struggle, paid for in suffering, sealed by endurance. Obstacles are also the great equalizer. Talent, wealth, beauty, these may open doors, but when the obstacle arrives, they are often useless. The man with perfect talent but no resilience will fall. The man with wealth but no endurance will break. The man with beauty but no willpower will fade. But the one who has learned to wield obstacles as weapons will rise above all, because he has turned hardship into an ally. Think carefully. When others avoid obstacles, they hand you an advantage. They flee the difficulty, leaving the prize for whoever has the courage to face it. The obstacle protects opportunity like a guard at the gate. Most will never pass him, but those who do are rewarded with treasures unseen. This is why the obstacle is not the enemy, it is the filter. It separates the weak from the strong, the pretenders from the sovereign. The mind that understands this truth no longer complains. It studies each obstacle with cold eyes. It asks, what skill must I sharpen here? What weapon can this challenge place in my hands? What power will this trial leave behind when I emerge from it? The obstacle then becomes a tool of strategy. If it slows you, use the pause to think. If it blocks you, use the resistance to grow stronger. If it humbles you, use the humility to gain perspective. Nothing is wasted, because everything that opposes you can be converted into your weapon if you refuse to bow. Most men live their lives as fugitives from struggle. They spend their days avoiding pain, running from difficulty, seeking comfort. But this path only ensures weakness. For the man who does not face obstacles is soft, fragile, easily broken, and when the inevitable storm arrives, he is swept away. But the man who has faced obstacles willingly, who has turned each into a weapon, becomes immovable. He is the storm. Independence of spirit is the crown jewel of power. To command yourself completely, to owe nothing to any master, to bend to no will but your own, that is the essence of sovereignty. Yet few men ever taste it. They chain themselves willingly, enslaved not by tyrants, but by the approval of others, by the lure of comfort, by the fear of standing alone. What is the spirit that is not independent? It is a servant. It waits for permission before it acts. It asks for validation before it speaks. It measures itself against the shifting opinions of others, and so it never discovers its own truth. Wait, such a spirit is blown like a leaf in the wind, moved by praise, broken by criticism, guided by forces outside itself. The independent spirit is different. It is immovable. It does not beg for acceptance, nor does it tremble at rejection. It does not kneel before fashion, nor does it obey the customs of the weak. It walks its path without apology, for it knows that sovereignty cannot be borrowed. It must be seized. Think of the rulers and conquerors who rose against the tides of their age. They were told to conform. They were told to wait their turn. They were told what could and could not be done, and yet they refused to listen. They chose independence of spirit over obedience to the world. The crowd scorned them at first. The crowd doubted them. The crowd called them mad, arrogant, reckless. But in time it was the crowd that followed, because independence has a gravity of its own, pulling all things toward it. Independence does not mean isolation. It does not mean you reject every hand extended to you. It means you never let another hand dictate the shape of your soul. You may take counsel, but you are not ruled by it. You may accept alliance, but you are not enslaved by it. You may obey laws when it serves you, but you are not owned by them. The independent spirit calculates always, what serves my purpose, what strengthens my sovereignty, what preserves my throne within. Many will attempt to rob you of this throne. Some will come with kindness, offering approval if only you yield your individuality. Others will come with threats, demanding submission under the weight of their authority. Still, others will come disguised as friends, urging you to follow the crowd for safety's sake. But independence must not be sold for affection, for peace, or for security, for once you sell it, you will never buy it back at the same price. A man with independence of spirit carries a different presence. He is not desperate to be liked. He does not bend himself into shapes to fit another's design. His words are measured not because he fears, but because he chooses. His silence is not weakness but control, and others feel it. They sense that he cannot be bribed with flattery or bent by disapproval. They may resist him, but they cannot dismiss him. Ask yourself, how much of what you do each day is truly yours? How many of your choices are born from your own reason, your own desire, your own design? And how many are borrowed? Borrowed from parents, from teachers, from culture, from strangers. If your life is built on borrowed thoughts, then it is not your life. It is a performance staged by others, and you are merely the actor, repeating lines written long before you were born. Independence of spirit demands that you seize the pen and write your own lines. It demands the courage to stand alone when necessary, to risk disapproval, to endure misunderstanding. For the world does not reward the man who obeys without question. It rewards the man who dares to stand apart, who forces the world to adjust to his presence rather than adjusting himself to the world. This independence is not given freely. It requires sacrifice. You may lose the applause of the crowd. You may walk alone through stretches of silence. You may be judged, ridiculed, and opposed, but these are small costs compared to the wealth of sovereignty, for the man who owns his spirit cannot be broken. He cannot be blackmailed, manipulated, or ruled. He lives by his own command, and that makes him dangerous in a world built on obedience. Do not confuse arrogance with independence. Arrogance is fragile. It demands recognition. It craves domination. Independence does not crave. It simply is. It does not shout for others to notice. It does not seek to enslave others in return. It stands firm, complete within itself, needing nothing but its own conviction. The independent spirit is a fortress. It may open its gates to chosen allies, but it never surrenders the keys. It may fight battles alongside others, but it never lets another general dictate its purpose. It may walk in society, but it never allows society to dictate its worth. This is the spirit that endures when kingdoms collapse, when friends betray, when enemies strike. For as long as the spirit remains sovereign, the man remains unconquered. Attachment is the invisible chain. It binds more tightly than iron and imprisons more securely than walls. Men believe themselves free, yet they are held captive by their need for approval, their hunger for recognition, their thirst for belonging. They bend, they kneel, they obey, not because they are forced, but because they cannot bear the thought of losing what they cling to. Strategic detachment is the art of breaking those chains before they can strangle you. Understand this. The world seeks leverage. It does not care about your spirit, only about your weaknesses, and nothing gives the world more leverage than attachment. If you crave applause, they will silence you with criticism. If you crave security, they will control you with threats. If you crave love, they will bend your will with rejection. The very things you cling to become the keys others use to unlock your submission. But the man who practices detachment becomes dangerous. He cannot be bought with praise, for he does not worship it. He cannot be broken with threats, for he does not fear loss. He cannot be enslaved with rejection, for his worth does not rest in the hands of others. When the world sees that you are unmoved, its weapons fall uselessly to the ground. Detachment does not mean apathy. It does not mean that you feel nothing, that you abandon all ties, that you retreat into emptiness. No, detachment is strategic. It is the choice to master your attachments rather than let them master you. It is the discipline of engaging with people, with power, with fortune, but never surrendering your sovereignty to them. Think of the gambler who sits at the table desperate to win back his losses. He is owned by the game, no matter how much money he holds in his hands, his attachment to winning blind. His reason, the detached player, however, knows when to walk away. He does not fear loss, for he knows it cannot define him. That freedom makes him the most dangerous player of all. History is filled with examples of rulers who fell because they clung too tightly to what they could not bear to lose. They became slaves to their own thrones, terrified of losing them, until fear clouded their judgment. Their enemies sensed it and struck. Contrast this with leaders who treated fortune as a tool, not as a master. They used wealth, power, and even allies strategically, but they never depended on them. When the tides turned, they remained firm because their spirit was not anchored to things that could be taken away. Ask yourself, what do you fear losing most? Is it your reputation, your wealth, your relationships, your comfort? Whatever it is, there lies your weakness. For the moment others see it, they will exploit it. If your spirit collapses at the thought of losing it, you have given them the lever with which to move you. Strategic detachment removes that lever. It strips the world of the ability to dictate your state of mind. When others insult you, detachment prevents their words from becoming chains. When others withhold affection, detachment shields you from desperation. When fortune abandons you, detachment allows you to remain calm, to calculate, to strike back with clarity while others drown in grief. The detached spirit does not deny emotion. It simply refuses to be ruled by it. Imagine walking through life as if every gift, every opportunity, every bond is borrowed, not owed. You value them, you enjoy them, but you do not kneel to them. If they vanish, you remain whole. This is the strength of detachment. You gain power from everything, but depend on nothing. And here is the paradox. Those who practice detachment often command the deepest respect and loyalty. Why? Because people sense they cannot be manipulated. They are drawn to the one who stands apart, immune to flattery, immune to fear, immune to pressure. They may not always understand him, but they cannot help but follow him, for his independence creates a gravity that pulls others into his orbit. Detachment also sharpens judgment. When you are blinded by attachment, you cannot see clearly. You make decisions to protect what you cling to, not to advance your purpose. But when you detach, you see the battlefield as it is. You do not confuse desire with reality. You do not sacrifice strategy for comfort. You do not mistake survival for sovereignty. You act not from fear of loss, but from pursuit of power. Consider the general who loves his city so much that he refuses to abandon it, even when the strategic retreat would save his army. His attachment destroys him. Consider another general who values the city but values victory more. He abandons it when necessary, sacrifices what must be sacrificed, and later rebuilds greater than before. One was a prisoner of attachment, the other was a master of detachment. Strategic detachment is not coldness, it is clarity. It allows you to give freely without being enslaved. It allows you to fight fiercely without fearing defeat. It allows you to lead boldly without begging for loyalty. It allows you to lose without being destroyed and to win without being consumed. For the detached spirit knows that power does not come from what you hold, but from what you cannot be forced to surrender. Victory does not always belong to the strongest, nor to the cleverest, nor to the most loved. It belongs, more often than not, to the one who refuses to stop. Endurance is the secret that outlasts brilliance, that outmaneuvers talent, that outpaces fortune. The world rewards not always the one who begins with fire, but the one who continues to burn when others are consumed by their own ashes. Consider the battles of history. Armies rose with overwhelming force, flashing their might, terrifying their enemies with the thunder of their first strike. Yet when the days grew long, when food ran low, when the storm did not pass, those same armies withered. Their fire was real, but it was short. Then came the soldiers who did not collapse, who marched still with blood in their boots and hunger in their bellies. They endured, and so they claimed the battlefield, not because they struck the hardest blow, but because they still stood when the dust cleared. This principle extends beyond war into every realm of life, in politics, in business, in art, in conquest. Most men rush forward with enthusiasm, eager to prove themselves, eager to shine. They begin loudly, but they do not last. Their spirits break when fortune delays. Their will collapses when rewards are slow. They confuse the sprint with the marathon, and so they fall, leaving the field open for the one who possesses the rarest weapon of all, patience forged into endurance. Endurance is not glamorous. It is not dramatic. It does not always roar. It whispers, it grinds, it persists. It is the man who keeps working when others sleep, the leader who holds his post when others desert, the spirit that refuses to break even when breaking would be easier. And because so few can endure, the one who does eventually rules by default. You must understand this. Life tests every man, not once, but repeatedly. It pushes, it crushes, it tempts, it waits. The first test is always strength, but strength fades. The second test is always cunning, but cunning can be matched. The final test, the one that decides all, is endurance. Who will still be there when the storm passes? Who will still rise after being struck down again and again? That man, and only that man, secures victory. Think of empire builders. They were betrayed, exiled, defeated, mocked, yet they endured. Each fall became a lesson. Each scar became armor. Each delay became preparation. Their enemies celebrated their downfall too soon, mistaking a temporary wound for final defeat. But when others thought it over, they rose again. And over time, even the strongest enemy grows tired, but the one who endures cannot be worn down. He becomes like stone, weathered, scarred, but unbroken. Ask yourself, how many times have you stopped just short of triumph because the road was too long, too heavy, too uncertain? How many times have you mistaken delay for defeat? How many victories were abandoned because you lacked the endurance to continue? You will see that most failure is not final, it is voluntary. Men surrender not because they are destroyed, but because they no longer wish to fight. Endurance is the refusal to give this permission. The world belongs not to the man who shines briefly, but to the one who endures consistently. Talent fades, beauty fades, wealth shifts, fortune turns, but endurance grows stronger the longer it is tested. Endurance becomes habit. Habit becomes identity. Identity becomes destiny. To endure is to embrace hardship as part of the path. It is to accept that pain is not punishment, but proof that you are still alive, still fighting, still moving forward. It is to laugh quietly when others fall away, knowing their absence clears your path. It is to remain while others collapse, and in remaining inherit all that they abandoned. Look closely at the powerful, and you will see endurance hidden behind their crowns. The artist whose work finally receives recognition after decades of obscurity. The thinker whose ideas were mocked until time proved them immortal. The warrior who outlived every rival. Their genius was not only in their skill, it was in their capacity to persist when all others lost heart. Victory of endurance is subtle. It is not always celebrated in the beginning. People mock the one who refuses to stop. They call him stubborn, delusional, relentless. They cannot see that it is precisely this stubbornness that crowns him in the end. They bow before brilliance, but brilliance without endurance vanishes like a spark in the wind. They sneer at patience, yet patience builds empires brick by brick. The man who endures commands a respect deeper than admiration. He becomes inevitable. His enemies may outshine him for a season, but seasons change. He becomes constant, the unshakable, the one who refuses to be erased. Time itself bends in his favor, because time devours all but the one who endures it. This is the final law of power. Not strength, not cunning, not charm, not fortune, endurance. For when all else fails, when every weapon has dulled, when every strategy has been exhausted, when every advantage has turned to dust, the one who still remains standing claims everything by the simple act of refusing to fall. You have heard the laws of the unconquered. Strength is perception, control is a game of will, fear outweighs respect, obstacles sharpen into weapons, the spirit must remain independent, detachment is your shield, and endurance is your crown. These are not theories, these are the eternal truths of power, written not in books but in blood, in betrayal, in the rise and fall of empires. Understand this, the world will never stop testing you. It will try to break you with force, seduce you with comfort, ensnare you with attachment, and drown you in fear. Most will fall. They will surrender their will, betray their spirit, collapse under the weight of time, but you are not like most. You have seen the pattern, you have learned the design. You know now that nobody and nothing can ever break you, control you, or stop you, unless you allow it. To live by these laws is to step outside the reach of ordinary men. You will no longer seek their approval, nor fear their judgment, nor kneel before their threats. You will no longer curse your obstacles, but wield them. You will not cling, you will not beg, you will not yield. You will endure, and in enduring you will outlast them all. This is the crown of the sovereign spirit. This is the throne no tyrant can seize, no enemy can topple, no age can erode. Hold it, and you are untouchable. Hold it, and you become the master not only of your fate, but of the world around you. Hold it, and you are never ruled, only obeyed.